What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's show. And in this week, we've got a very special episode with one of my best friends. His name is Ben Homme. And we dive into really a massive personal shift in mindset and growth, and how sitting in your shit can really help you go forward. I think it's a fascinating conversation. I loved having him here. So let's dive in and see what he has to say. Welcome everybody to another great episode of the GOOYOW Now Show. I'm your host, Bob McIntosh, and today is a very special episode for me in particular, and I'll explain why here in a minute. But first and foremost, I want to welcome you whether you're watching or listening, and today's guest is a good friend of mine. His name is Ben Homme. Now, before we dive into Ben's story and sort of how he's gotten out of his own way, I want to share a little bit about Ben. I don't think I told him about this, so hopefully he doesn't freak out as I go through it. But why this episode is so important to me, why it's so special for me in particular, is I've known this gentleman for the majority of my life, since, I don't know, what, middle school maybe?
Oh, easily.
Something like that. Which, by the way, this is Ben. Everyone say hi, Ben. I know if you're watching, listening, he's not
everyone.
hearing you, but, you know, it is what it is. It still feels good to know. So I've known Ben for a long time, and if you've been listening or watching the show at all for I think this is episode 42 or 43 maybe, you may have heard me make reference to, I have a friend. And a lot of times when I talk about I have a friend, it's usually this guy, and there's like two other people, but one of the three of them. And why this is, again, for me so special is that I've watched this particular gentleman here really transform from where he was even just a few years ago to where he is today. And I'm not going to steal his story because it's his to share. But here's the thing. I want to frame it because this is really important. Ben is not a multimillionaire. He hasn't built a huge business. In fact, doesn't even really have a business right now. He still works a full-time job. And this is all not to say, hey, this is not something you should listen to. The reason that I have him on here is because his story of transformation and him getting out of his own way in the way that he thought previously to where he is now. And I can, again, from my experience of knowing him for a long time, that transition is massive in such a very short time. That's why I have him on here. Because the whole point of this show is to help you, the listener and or watcher, get out of your own way. For you to be able to get, and that means taking experiences and learning from people who have a wide range of experiences. Sure, I love having people on the show that, you know, have a lot of success in building businesses and things like that, because most of you that watch this or listen to this are entrepreneurs as well. But I think there's a lot to be learned from his transition from where he was to where he is now that we can pull away. And like everything, right? I always say this. This is about a show about trying things on, right? Listen to Ben's story, listen to what he's going to share, and listen to the details and say, hey, do I see some of those same things in myself? The old phrase of, if you spot it, you got it, right? That's true. Take those things that you see, try them on, see how they fit. If you're like, man, that's a little bit too close for home, then it's something to look at. If you're like, nope, I don't have that same experience of life or in my life right now or my business right now, that's okay too. But I promise you that if you stay through this whole thing, you're gonna find that. So without any further ado, I know there's a much longer intro than I usually do, but this is a very different episode, and so I wanted to frame it the right way. And so Ben, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So let's dive in here. So first and foremost, I sort of said, hey, this is someone that I've known for a long time, and for everyone else who doesn't know you, which is going to probably be everybody, because I don't think you've actually ever done a video before that I know of.
Right.
And by the way, he's not even on social media, really. I mean, he is, but not really. So, you know, you're not going to be able to find him or follow him, but you'll still be able to take away the knowledge. So just tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do just at a basic level, because that's not going to be super important in the context of this, but let's start there.
Well, I'm obviously Ben Homme. I work, a normal 9-to-5 job like many people, kind of doing logistics, supply chain management, just general basic kind of work. So I guess more of the real story, the work stuff isn't really what I want to talk about. But really the story is, I don't know, I kind of, as a younger individual, even like Bobby was saying the last few years, I kind of went through most of life, I don't know, a little bitter and angry, I guess I would say.
A little would be generous.
Yeah, well, I don't want to.
No, it's okay. No, and like it's not meant to be. And by the way, this is not me poking fun at you. It's accepting a reality of what it is and saying, okay, great, but you changed. You're to me, it's night and day difference from where you were to where you are now, and that's a great thing because it means you've taken ownership of who you are and you said, I'm going to be better and I want to work forward. So But keep going. So yeah, you felt for yourself that you were a little bit bitter and angry. But keep going.
Yeah, and at some point in your life, you realize it's not the way to be. But it really kind of took, for me, it took a lot of horrible things kind of happening all at once and then dragging out for a while. With dealing with, my wife had some serious health issues 5 years ago. And that really was the beginning of changing things. I probably walked away with it even bitter, and at first a little bit more bitter and angry at the world. But it was really, kind of the thing that kind of triggered everything to start changing.
It was the catalyst.
Yeah. To just, it's really just the improving the mindset,
right?
How you approach life and everything. Life is about challenges.
It is. So let's take this step by step, because there's a lot of things here that I want to unpack. So first let's start with, and I think this is a fair characterization, if you will, which is, and we'll come to because I think part of your job change too, which we'll come back to in a second, is my opinion of you is that you're kind of coasting through life, and I don't want to say coasting in like a bad way, but just, you did your normal thing, you had your extra, and there wasn't any drive or ambition that I could tell from my point of view to do anything specifically more. Is that a fair characterization?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
So, and then, your wife got ill, and that sort of changed things. And we'll break that down more specifically, but let's start with that. Like, what changes have you noticed in yourself from where you were when you felt bitter and angry and maybe were coasting a little bit to where you are now? And why do you feel those are the biggest changes that you've had? Leaving out the actual medical part, but like for you, what do you feel like, hey, this is the things that I noticed about myself that changed?
I mean, the obvious, I'm definitely happier now than I've ever been.
Okay.
But I think one of the biggest changes is just how you approach, every day life throws challenges at you. That's
right.
The purpose of, now it's more, I look at it as that's the purpose of being here instead
right.
of, well, why is this shit happening to me again? Well, that shit happens to everybody every day, again and again and again. And it's learning that is like, that's part of life. That's why we're here. Otherwise, why would we even be here on life? Our souls could have essentially been doing something else with their time.
Right.
So you're here for the challenge.
Okay. So it's fair to say that, hey, like I changed my mindset around how I saw a challenge.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And how has that played out for you moving forward in the last few years?
Oh, just on a day-to-day, with things at work, things that would have, when I was younger, it would have been more of a spending your time complaining about it and, not really, and now it's, instead of doing that, it's what do I have to fix the problem? How can you fix it? It's more of a proactive type of approach to something rather than just I don't know if proactive is the right word, but
I got you.
Rather than just get upset and not really put your efforts into
you're taking it
getting
on
out of
versus
your own way, essentially.
Yeah.
Doing what you need to do.
Perfect. And so you're more accepting of taking something on, even though it might be difficult, even though it might be challenging, because again, the way you're framing challenge in your mind.
And after dealing with my wife's health issues, I mean, quite frankly, after dealing with that, there's not too many challenges I found that are more challenging than that.
Right.
So you do something like that, there's not much you don't feel like there's much that can really hold you back.
Okay, so you're saying the depth of the challenge enabled you to better face and change what you wanted to about yourself.
Yeah, because nothing happens worse to me today than that was.
Right. Yeah. So it adds perspective. You've been able to say, okay, this is something that's changed my perspective of life and how I tackle life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is just for everyone watching or listening. Like, I'm not saying, and I want to address this because this is something that I've personally dealt with a lot. I've seen a lot, and I've had a lot of conversations with people about. Even if you're like, okay, Bob, this is all great, and I hear what Ben's saying, but I haven't had any deep challenges. I haven't had, a wife or a spouse that's had illness that's, caused me to face my reality in a deeper level. I haven't had, I remember listening to Eric Thomas one point. He's like, I'm eating trash out of trash cans in Detroit. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, that's never been my reality, right? Like, I've had it pretty good when you consider it, when in comparison to that. And it's like, but at the same time, it doesn't mean just because his low is way lower than yours might have been, it doesn't mean that it's any less valid. Your low for you is just as low, and I think that's an important thing I want to like frame with this as well. Is that wherever your low is, it's okay, even if it's not as low as his. But the point is this: if you can look at something like that and transform yourself, then why, at his story and he can transform himself, why can't you?
Yeah, and the stories are not comparisons.
Right.
Everybody's bad is they're bad no matter what it looks like to somebody else's perspective too.
Right. So here's what I want to dive into this a little bit, and this has to do with your wife's not mental issues. Sorry, she's not crazy. I promise. She's behind the camera going, what the heck? No, health issues, and not so much about the specifics of the health issues because I don't think they inherently matter for the purpose of this story, but more specifically, what was going on for you in your mind as you were going through this situation?
God. It felt like when I pledged, but you don't know when the end is in sight.
Okay.
Very not a very enjoyable time, and you just you know the end's somewhere. You don't know what, but even for that, you don't even know what the end's going to be. It was like a 3-month anxiety attack.
Okay.
Essentially, that's what I would have compared it to. I remember crying in the shower one day when it first started. It was a very challenging thing to deal with. I think nothing in life preps you for
that,
for watching that happen and having literally nothing you can do.
Right. And so as you were going through this, was there a singular moment at which the final straw hit it and you're like, this is it, I'm done, enough, like I can't deal with this anymore? Or was it like every day just a little bit more until finally, you're like, I've got to do something about this?
You mean as far as my mindset?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually sitting at an event and, listening to somebody in a very similar situation talk about it. And it was basically his wife changed, he didn't, and they eventually just grew apart and got divorced because they went down. His wife got better, and then she grew and got better as a person, evolved, whereas her husband stayed the same in the same mindset, still bitter, still angry, holding the grudge. And I kind of realized sitting through that, you see it through a few different lenses, right. And that was probably the one thing that really put in motion that I needed to change my mindset. Just at that point,
and why do you think that is? What was it about that moment that made you say I need to change?
Well, I didn't want to lose my wife.
Okay.
I mean, that was clearly and that was a very common theme, and I didn't really want to follow it.
Okay. So that provided the motivation to change.
Yeah.
So was it like an overwhelming, like, holy, like, this is me and I don't want to go down that path? And if so, what was your next step? Or was it like, did you like get home later and like reflect upon it? And
that one actually probably took a couple weeks to really sink in. Like, it hit me hard right away, but it definitely took a few weeks to sink in, especially because I didn't really know, how to adjust your mindset when you've been doing something for
all your life,
34 years at that point or something. It's a long time of just the same. So to break it is very challenging, especially if you don't even know where to start.
Right.
So like it actually like more just at that point it was okay. I need to be more open to trying something else because what I'm doing isn't working.
Okay.
And like this is like now I'm an idiot if I continue to do what now I know I have a problem.
Right.
Fix it.
Right.
So you had to do something, and it actually was when I was hanging out with her cousin, Nicole's cousin, a lot. And he said he was going to do a meditation and metaphysics class that his mom did, my wife did, her cousin's wife did. A bunch of people in the family had done it, and they all really enjoyed it. A lot of people just found I saw people while they were doing it would find a lot of kind of just stress relief and things like that. So it was kind of, I don't know what else to do, so what the hell? Why not try it? And then that class...
Hold on, I want to pause there just for a second.
Yeah.
Because I think that's huge, right? Like, you were like, I don't know what else to do, so why not try it? And it's like literally what I was just saying about this. I was like, hey, like, listen and take away something about this. And I think that's, first and foremost, that takes a massive amount of energy to accept from, hey, I need to change myself. Because, like, changing ourselves is the hardest thing that we can do. Like, literally the hardest thing. And so I want to give you congratulations for that.
Thank you.
But, sorry. So you said, all right, try it. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember, like the first day I walked into that class, the guy said, "You need to learn to breathe." He was like, "That'll help you more than anything I'm going to teach you in the class." And that was like day one, was like the diaphragmatic breathing and just to get the stress away in that, which he was right. It was probably the most beneficial thing. But it was one of those classes where you learn things, but because you're not always ready to accept it and actually make some of the changes, because it's not easy. A lot of what I learned in that class took me months after the class before I really figured out how to apply them and start using them and that stuff.
So I want to go back just for a second to that about 2 weeks or so that it took for you to sink in that, hey, I need to do something different. And like, what was happening in your mind at that point in time? Like, was this a struggle? Were you like saying, I'm not going to accept this? Were you saying, like, or was it like, do you feel like, hey, I failed? Like what? Like I'm curious to know what was going through your mind, because I'm imagining that everyone listening has probably faced a similar situation, and so if they can recognize from your description what they're feeling, they might be able to work their way out of it as well.
Yeah, for me, I was really at that point just frustrated with how I felt every day.
Okay.
Where I was kind of at job-wise, just life in general. So it was like a combination of everything, but I'd say really it was just kind of frustration with sick of dealing with the same crap every day and that. So now it's the same stuff every day, but it's a whole different approach to it.
Okay. So you're going through these 2 weeks, you start realizing, hey, like I got to do something. You find this meditation class, right? Tells you to breathe.
Yeah.
And then what? Like you don't go from just, okay, I breathed, like I took a breath and everything's resolved, right? Like I've changed everything. So what was next?
Yeah. Well, it was doing the class, getting into doing the meditation, and just learning. So like a lot of it was just learning to be more aware of energy and those types of things, which that really, like it sounds weird. I don't know. It depends if you're into that stuff or not. But you really start noticing it, and why like I noticed it at the job I had at the time. It like once you start picking up on that energy, like when you walk into work and it feels like a black cloud around you all day.
Right.
You kind of you have to change things, and you start picking up on these things. Some of it is just being aware. Just being aware of when your mind's starting to get away on you, and getting lost in your own shit, basically.
Okay. And what did you do when you found yourself in those moments? What's helped you realize? Well, A, what's helped you realize it, and B, what's helped you break through that?
Mostly, actually, that class that I did, the guy gave you a stop Post-it notes with a stop on it.
Okay.
And he wanted to put them all over, so like I put one in my truck because like for most people, road rage, and that's kind of one place for me. So I would put it in there, and that would help remind you.
Like your trigger points.
Yeah, and the intent was when you saw the sign, you need to stop whatever you're doing and just take a breath, take a couple deep breaths, and just be present. Enjoy that you're in the moment. So it's simple as taking something like you're in traffic and you're stuck behind people or somebody's driving slow. It's that just enjoy it. Like
right.
you're there whether you be pissed off or you can be happy, but you're there either way. So it's just kind of learning to adjust to that mindset.
Right.
Like it's hard to imagine that I used to be. I mean, not that I'm always great, but it's always a work in progress. But it's amazing that I used to think so differently. Because God, what a horrible way to feel. You see it when you're on the road. It's crazy.
Well, yeah. It's like it's like a rubber band. Once you've stretched it far enough, it can't go back to where it was.
Yeah.
And then you look back and go, wait, we used to be like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that. So the energy awareness. How else has that played out for you in relationships, in your job, in your everyday experience? And when you reflect back about how you used to be, what thoughts do you have? Aside from wondering how you used to be that way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's you kind of got to be like you're definitely more conscious about it, or at least I have been. When you're talking to other people, especially first-time people you're meeting, you want to make you don't want to come out with low energy, kind of like a soup sandwich, essentially. Right. You want to be cognizant of that, but you pick up on it from other people. Kind of tells you can pretty much judge not really judge, but you can kind of tell what a person's like from
Right.
that. Once when you get used to it. That's a tough question.
Well, think of, okay, let's take this. So obviously, if you're watching this at this point, obviously his wife got through the health issues because we talked about the fact that she's here. So how has it changed your relationship from your perspective?
Man, I haven't honestly thought about that one too much. Well, I know our relationship's a lot better. Because we don't argue. There's a lot in our relationship that's changed. So it's a much different approach because we don't bother yelling anymore. It's more of just a communication, because usually
Okay.
if it's not working anyway, it's just a miscommunication. It's not usually any real big deal.
Right.
I think I've calmed down quite a bit. My wife could confirm that.
We're getting a nod. We're getting a nod. We'll take it. And that's fine. Look, like, this is not necessarily to be a grilling or anything of that nature, but I think people, there's all these different aspects of our lives that make up, sort of the wheel of what we spend our time doing and how our conscious awareness works, and that's obviously an important piece of it. So,
Yeah.
okay, so all right, let's go back to a different part of the energy awareness. So let's take, for example, you said the car. You're in there, you got this little stop post note, which, by the way, I love the idea of that, just having that there. When you see that now, like, what happens for you? What's different now about than it was previous? Like before that.
It's literally stopping yourself
Right.
before you let that even get there, and then.
But what happens? Sorry, let me rephrase the question. What happens in your mind? Like, what like do you still find that the anger comes up? You want to be pissed at someone?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so what
I'm
then?
still about to crash into them, but it's not going to help. It's not going to change anything. So now it's instead of it's just redirecting it. Instead, it's just let it go.
Right.
Put on the music. Whatever you got to do. It's just now, instead of getting angry and then staying angry, it's let it go, because like, let 1 2-second incident ruin the next 4 hours of your day.
Right. So what things have you found works the best for you to interrupt the pattern and change your behavior?
Well, now, recognizing it, and then I just try to redirect my whole thought process. Just think about something else.
Okay.
Usually I have music on in the car, so it's just I try to just redirect myself back to that.
Okay.
Just anything else. Just think about something else.
Okay.
Try to let it go.
That's cool. I mean, so some people will go for a run, or some people will go to the gym and work it out that way. Some people will just they'll have an internal argument in their head and be like, okay, we're good. Now I yelled at him. I just didn't yell physically.
Like for something like that, like when you're like, if I'm dealing with like stress at work, for whatever that's going on, it's busy, anything. I personally will use meditation just randomly during the day, especially lunch break if it's been a really stressful day.
Okay.
Before work, if I'm not feeling very good, I'll do it, just because it helps.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of times it will be, and it's nothing crazy. I'll find, like, just go on YouTube and you can find like a quick 10-15 minute like distressing meditation. That's usually some breath work and just relaxing and being present. And it's weird. I love it because you first start doing it, and the first few minutes you're like, wow, this is so not working. And then like 5 minutes later, you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And you like, the whole stress of the first 4 hours of the day is pretty much gone, and you can like take a few minutes on lunch then to relax and enjoy it and do that. Sometimes it's just simply walking the dog at lunch.
Okay. And that's good. And so the point of the question is just, for everyone, there's different ways of dealing with that. There's different ways of getting out of your own way with that, whether it be anger or frustration or whatever's happening. That's, any negative emotion in that way. So I'm just curious for you. Okay, so let's switch gears just for a second, a little bit, and say, okay, so you have these tools now, more or less, that have enabled you to say, hey, look, I don't have to be as angry about things. I can control my own emotions in that sense and choose how I want to do that. How has that impacted your work? And again, I'm asking from not necessarily about like the specifics of your job, but for everyone here, obviously work's a big part of our life. It's where we spend a massive amount of time. So
Yeah.
how have you noticed the people that you work with has it changed that? How have you noticed, your ability to tackle tasks? Do you notice you get more done, less done this way?
Well, I obviously noticed it because I made and I don't know if it's really a career change, but I switched company. I left my old job that I worked at for a long time.
It was a long time. It was like 15 years?
I was almost at 16 full years, like 2 weeks. I was a couple weeks short of it when I left. But I really, after changing, I had a really hard time even going to work. Like every day it was like the last thing I ever wanted to do. I would have rather jumped down the stairs head first. Anything else would have been better than going to work at that point. And it just got to that point where it was like, okay, I need to do something, I need to go somewhere else. This isn't the place, because it was, like I said before, you just felt it. When you pulled into the parking lot, you could feel it. And when you walked in the door, it was some thick negative energy. And and it was one where at that point, I'm like, I'm trying to improve myself, so I can't continue to be around this toxic environment you're with a lot of other people who are carrying the same energy that I was carrying.
Right.
And it unfortunately was just the culture there. But you're around it so long that wears you down. Well, once you start to get away from it, you don't want to be around it. I mean, we talked about it when you were in Austin. You didn't hang out with me a lot for a little while there because I was bitter. I wouldn't have wanted to hang out with me either. I don't blame you. And that's why, I see it now, because I'm like, yeah, no wonder you wouldn't want to be around, because, I didn't want to be around that stuff either. And, I knew a lot of those people pretty well. I worked with a lot of them for a lot of years, but it gets to the point where you're like, I can't be around this kind of energy because it's dragging me back down every time I come in here. And you can do things to keep that stuff away from you, but it doesn't help when you got to do it for 8 hours, 9 hours a day.
So what things have you found useful for you that helps you kind of protect your energy against that?
I don't do really a whole lot, but I have been told there's some different types of shields and stuff you can put up through a meditation process. There's it's called the 12-dimensional shield.
Okay.
And you basically build a big pillar of white light around you.
Okay.
And that is to keep all that negative kind of energy away, and then there's a whole lot more to it.
Of course there is. Well,
but the basic of it is it will help keep that kind of negative energy away from you, and there's simpler versions just to kind of build your own aura field around you to keep that energy.
And you found that's been useful for you?
I used it every day before I went into my old job.
Okay.
My new job, I also approach life very differently than I did at my last job. I just don't stress about things. I try not to. I do. There's times where you need to stress sometimes. Otherwise you don't care.
Right.
But I don't let it get to me, and then I'm able to at least, if it's really bothering me, I can spend a little time after work, do some meditation, just walk the dog, play video games, just do something to unwind for 20, 30 minutes, and then you can at least be good. Where before I would just carry that crap with me. I'd bring it home, carry it all night, not sleep well because I was up thinking about it.
Right.
And then it was then the next day, and now you're tired, grumpier, and more crap, and it's any job, then more comes on you the next day. So it's just reapproaching it. I don't ever feel, thankfully, like that.
That's good.
Very rare.
That's good. Okay, cool. So you made this transition in jobs. Obviously, you made a pretty big transition in your personal life as well. Not necessarily from people, but from how you approach it and there. And so, what do you see as possible for you moving forward with the changes that you've experienced now? Now, obviously, there might be restrictions on certain things that you can and can't do just because you have a job, or because with your wife, or the health issues that she still has to face even today. But for you, from a belief standpoint, what is now possible moving forward?
Oh, man. Really anything.
That's huge. That's what I wanted you to say. And I wanted you to say that because here's why. Knowing that, how does it make you feel to know that that's the truth for you? That's your truth.
Good. It's good. It's part of the reason I like it because you can, like I was saying before, after like going through dealing with her health issues and that, watching someone lay in an ICU room for 2 months and going through that, you really know like there's not a lot more that's going to happen, and hopefully until we're much older in life when we deal with that again. So I know that I've dealt with that and I made it through it. And then on top of it, we had a lot of changes with ourselves that we had to make, like between my wife and I. And then I've seen how much that's improved our marriage. It's only good things because only better things have been happening. I've had, things happen. We make hospital trips every couple months. But it's even still, it just doesn't feel as world-ending as it did before. I don't find myself even coming to the stress levels that I did before.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
Look, there's like a ton of scientific proof, and I can't necessarily quote anything right now. So you're talking about stress. There's a ton of like scientific proof that shows, stress has an immense negative impact upon our bodies in all kinds of ways, from the hormones it releases, from the way our body interacts to it, and all those things we do. So just that right there alone is a massive shift in your entire life and probably your well-being moving forward.
Oh yeah, like even just the breathing. So like before I would have never, like when diaphragmatic breathing was explained to me, what? Like, I have no clue what you're talking about. Like, how do you do that? Well, you breathe from your diaphragm. Like, right. Cool, I don't understand what you're saying to me.
Right.
And it actually that actually took like work because it was always just breathing in your lungs. But if you're breathing through your diaphragm, you're bringing in a lot more oxygen, which is helping your body. And if you're in that stress level where you're not breathing, just not breathing right, you're doing, like, I'm no scientist or doctor by any means, but I gotta imagine that is not healthy at all.
Yeah, more oxygen in your body is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so you've had this huge shift. You switched jobs. I know at one point, one of the things that always stuck out to me, and I don't remember exactly when the time frame was and things, but I remember you messaged me at one point saying, "Hey, like, who are you listening to, like podcast wise and things like that?" And I remember,
books. I asked you for books.
Yeah, it was books. That's what it was. Books. Because you were going on a trip to Maine, was it maybe, or I don't remember. But you were going someplace.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter. But for me, what it was this moment of, wait, who the fuck are you? Right? But in like a good way. And the reason that I share this is for any of you listening.
Well, I would have never asked that question 5 years ago.
No, you wouldn't have. And that's fine. Like, it's not necessarily inherently a bad thing, but it was just a very surprising thing. And I share that simply because for me it was like, it was this realization of, oh man, like, he's turned a corner, something. And obviously I knew about the issues. We had talked when she was in the ICU and all that. But for you to have that dramatic change, I remember thinking, huh. And so the reason I'm bringing this up is for anybody watching or listening to this, if you have a friend, a close friend, a family member, or someone that you care about, and they even just as innocuous as, hey, what books are you reading? Like, right? That's a huge sign of a shift. So latch onto it and support that. And I feel like I've done that, although I'll let you speak to that, whether I have or not. But for me, it was just like, oh man, like, here it is. And like, for me, I always want to help my friends. Like, I want to, like, it's cool to have this journey by myself, but it's much better to do it with people that I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's huge. So you started like diving more into like personal development. What else have you done besides this meditation class? Because you referenced that a few times, but I know you've done some other things.
Yeah. I've read quite a few different books. The mindset book.
Mm-hmm. Carol Dweck's.
Yeah. I was trying to think of her name.
Yep. Carol Dweck, the psychology. Mindset, the New Psychology of Success.
Yeah.
Great book. One of my favorite books.
Yeah. So I read through that. My wife's always reading different books. So she's kind of passed along a few of them to me. I can't think of a couple offhand. But just reading them, and it just gives you that different perspective. Like, I don't know, like for me, like religion never really did it for me. Mm-hmm. Grew up going to church and doing that stuff, but it really just didn't do it for me. And I'm not knocking it or anybody's belief. Like, it's for me, it's one, like going through all of this, it's kind of found more of the spirituality part of it. like when we were kids, I would always say when we go hiking and backpacking and stuff, that to me was like that was being out with God,
Right.
and actually getting that, like that for me was way better than going to church.
Right.
And that's where I've kind of found with doing all of this is I've found that more of that spiritual connection rather than the church. And so it's more of, like the praying is giving your energy away, but meditation is bringing the energy into you. And I've found that to personally to be a lot more fulfilling than doing the church or any of that stuff. Now I know like people they'd also do it. They're also religious. I think the two can go pretty hand in hand. I don't see why they can't. Just for me, I found it because like it's kind of missing that in life. It'd definitely been one of those things I lost when I was younger and never really had a replacement. So you're kind of just wandering like there's no point to this. Kind of felt for a long time there's no point to this being here. You're just doing this. Like we just disappear. We're gone when we're gone. Where I definitely have a different viewpoint on all of that now, which has probably really shifted my mindset because you're here to achieve something. Like we're all here now to bring society up. I mean, we're living in a world where a ton of us, I mean, not that everybody's got, the life we have in the States, but I mean, we're all way up on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's time for humanity to start being better than what we've been. You have the ability.
The Boy Scout,
so you have to do your part.
Leave a place better than you found it.
Yeah.
And I mean, not just physically, like trash-wise and all that, but it also means emotionally, spiritually, technologically, whatever.
Yeah. So now I'm kind of gotten to the point in my life where especially because I'm getting a little bit older, I'm trying to figure out what do I do to leave my positive impact on this world. Because like up until now, it's kind of just been an immature way of going through life and just having a good time. But it's, you start approaching that midlife and you realize you need to actually do something before you're gone.
Crisis, it's okay.
Well, yeah.
Get a Corvette, sell everything.
And I've also, I'm very realistic of the fact now, like you could be gone tomorrow. It happens. So I want to make sure I have something that I've done in my life that's some sort of positive impact, whether it's, even if it's, to a few hundred people, if I did it could help 1 million people, that'd be awesome. But like, even if it's just a small amount, like doing this, if this helps
just one person,
somebody, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So if someone's watching or listening to this or has shared it with a friend who maybe they're saying, man, that sounds a lot like my friend or my cousin or my, child or whatever, what advice would you leave for them, having gone through the journey that you've gone through?
Yeah, don't sit in your own shit. Just don't. Find help, get help, talk to people. There's a lot of opportunities out there that it just not sit like that, just to be like that. You can there's a ton of books out there. The mindset book, there's a plethora of information out there to have. Even your book, I read it. It doesn't, obviously, a lot of it's geared towards an entrepreneur, but a lot of it is also, you can apply to your actual life. Like, even just doing stuff at home. Like, do you need to get everything in the house perfect when, like, your dog's going to come running through anyway? Like, you can't get every dog hair vacuumed up. So, like, get it as good as you can and be happy with it. That's not what's important. The 20% to perfection isn't what's important in life.
Right. Cool. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share with everybody on your journey that you feel is important?
It's been an interesting journey. I guess I wouldn't have said this 5 years ago, and I would have been shocked to hear myself say it now. But at the time, I didn't think it was. But in all reality, like my wife getting really sick and all of that happening was for me the best thing that probably could have happened. I think I'm pretty confident my wife would say the same thing, that it's the best thing that happened to her. It's probably the best thing that's happened to our relationship. And I know I was talking to a coworker about it, and that's what he said. He's like, "Man, that's impressive." He's like, "Because most people wouldn't even be able to do that." And that's where I know I've come a long way, because I remember sitting outside on my deck you know, when shortly after she had gotten home, like I think that summer, and I was just angry and bitter and being crotchety. And I remember he said something to the effect of, you know, one, it was, you know, like, you don't have it that bad because a lot of other people suffering way worse in the world. You know, they couldn't even have gotten the health care cover, you know, the health care that she got when she was in there. Yeah, it's learning, be grateful. That's actually, that's
summarization.
yeah, gratefulness. That, and yeah, just be grateful for the things you get. No matter how bad it is, be happy for what you have. I mean, be happy. I'm happy we had good hospitals that were able to help her and take care of her. Happy, like, shoot, all the people that were around, friends and family that just did stuff to help out, and all these little things that people did. I didn't even pay attention to it at the time. I was just kind of like, they happened, and it was later on, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize how many awesome people we had all around us.
How impactful those little things can be.
Yeah.
Because you've got a million things you're handling, so it's not necessarily the focus, but...
Yeah, it's because you're trying to work...
Upon reflection.
Work, drive, and it was like working in one area and then having to drive to the hospital in Buffalo, and it was all over the place, so it was a lot of running around at the time. But yeah, I think I learned you need to be grateful for things and just take some time to appreciate it. Lots of people talk about it. You know, you listen, there's quite a few people out there doing podcasts, like Ed Milet. His is some of my favorite because that's a lot of what it is. It's just, he's always so happy that the people come on his show and that stuff. So I like, good way to start the day with something like that.
It's always a good feeling.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you for being on. Thank you for listening or watching, whatever you're doing, wherever you're chiming in. As always, I ask for one simple payment. I stole this phrase from Andy Frisella, but if you found impact in this, please share it. Share it with a friend, an entrepreneur, a cousin, a nephew, a sister, a spouse, a child, whatever. Just share it with at least one person, because look, at the end of the day, this stuff, while it's great for me, and this is a fantastic conversation that Ben and I have had pieces of before, the point of this is to help each and every one of you get out of your own way. So I appreciate you tuning in, and that's how you can help other people do that. As always, make sure you rate, review, subscribe. Wherever you're watching, listening, just give us a 5-star review or give us a like or a comment, because that helps this stuff get out there even further. Otherwise, we'll see you guys on another episode again next week. Take it easy.